Hello, everyone. Welcome to Soulpreneur Symposium, where I speak with heart aligned, soul aligned entrepreneurs, healers from all over the world who are here to share their amazing gifts and heal the world. And today, I have with me my amazing friend, Rebecca McNeill, who is an expert in people pleasing. And she has been helping women who have had challenges with people pleasing and are dealing with overthinking, are dealing with people pleasing, and dealing with consistent chronic self abandonment issues and living a life gripped by fear. And she has been helping them, and she is going to be helping them a lot more. And we are going to be having an entire discussion around this. So, my dear friend Rebecca, how are you doing today? How are you feeling?
Hi, Debjit. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here and share more about all of this.
Thank you so much. Honestly speaking, I got to know about you from threads, I remember, and you were posting about people pleasing. And then I visited your Instagram. And guess what? I find out that you have like tons of reels specifically on people pleasing. And in every one of those reels, you share like a little bit of wisdom around people pleasing. Maybe something has to do with fear, maybe something to do with self abandonment. And I was like, wow, that is so cool. And we had that chat a few weeks back, and we talked about not just people pleasing, but about spirituality as well. And one of my main reason to bring you here is to have a conversation about people pleasing, deep dive into self abandonment, where it comes from, because I've experienced those things myself. And also allow my audience to see the spiritual side of you, which I got to explore personally when I had that chat with you. So that is my personal interest. So before we begin, I would like to ask you this question, which is, I think, at the top of my mind. What is people pleasing and how does it connect with self abandonment? Because this particular word, self abandonment, I only came to know 2 months back. And I still don't fully understand it yet. I'm like, why would I abandon myself? And how can a person abandon one's? What does that mean? Would you help me out with this?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up too, because um, sometimes when you go down the rabbit hole of a certain topic, these specific terms come up, like self abandonment. But I've thought a lot about how that's not always been part of my vocabulary.
Mhm.
And people might not necessarily identify with that if they're just on the verge of learning more about what is this people pleasing thing. So, having gone down the rabbit hole quite a bit with people pleasing, how I would define it is that it's a survival response. It's like a fight, flight, freeze, people please. It's one of those. So it's like when your nervous system gets activated and you've sensed a threat. And so you start behaving in ways to accommodate those around you, which doesn't necessarily sound bad in and of itself, but I guess the thing that makes it a problem for some of us is that we're putting other people ahead of some of like our own needs and in like a self-sacrificial way. And all of this like is so nuanced, right? Because
Mhm.
at the root of people pleasing is just like an innocent urge to want to give to others and want to serve others and help others. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually like such a beautiful thing and it's such a human thing.
Yeah.
But I think, over time and when it's done from a place of fear and a place of I don't actually have capacity to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm afraid, it really can wear on you. So so yes, that's I think, people talk about it in all kinds of different ways, and I could give, like, a million examples, but if I was gonna give you, like, this general overview of it, that's what I would say. It's like giving or serving from a place of fear, from a place of an empty cup.
Wow. Wow. So it's fear again. Like, literally every time I meditate, or try to see behind any challenge that is appearing in my life, be it financial, be it relationship, be it health, every time I'm finding that it's fear in the background. And you mentioned this, that it's fear again driving it. So doing things from an empty cup, driven by fear, right? So why do we do this? Like, do we, like, when we were young, we did not recognize that, that our cup was empty or that we are doing something misaligned? Because when I go back to my childhood, I did not know what was a cup, forget empty. I don't have an idea. All I cared about, because I had huge inferiority complex when I was growing up in school. I remember, especially from sixth grade, where I went to a very toxic school. I wouldn't hide it. It was a toxic school. All the kids were toxic from the sixth grade to 10th grade in that school. It was horrible. And I just wanted to belong, basically. If I don't go into the whole story, feeling like an alien in a place, feeling like I do not belong, feeling like I do not have any friends, although the friends were toxic later, I realized. And every aspect of me just wanted to fit in, basically, and feeling like, I'm not worth anything. Very bad self worth, like I was not very good at studies. I was not very good at sports. I was like, I'm not good at anything, basically. I didn't even exist. And the only way to feel good was like if somebody validated me, like, oh, you know, maybe father said like, oh, he did something, and or somebody else said, which is like waiting for a drop of water. I got like literally. So at that moment, we don't even think about like my cup is empty because it is empty to begin with, zero self worth, and validation would fill it. So what would you like to share about this? Like, how does somebody turn that around? Or somebody who's might be listening at the moment who's like, I can relate with this. I go through severe self worth issues and I'm going through it. What happened in your life that you turned it, and did you go through similar experiences? How did you turn it around, and how do people turn it
That's such a great question. I think, well, I just wanna say too, I think anyone who has experienced conditional love, whether it's, like, in the family or in a school environment or community, is
around?
is it's possible that they could develop some form of people pleasing because it's basically, like, in response to that. And, most of us don't grow up in these, like, self-aware places or, like, places of self-inquiry where people are thinking about this. So I would say, like, the world itself is really fertile grounds for developing people pleasing, and I think a lot of people do it whether they realize it or not. Um, but, and not everyone responds that way to their environment. Some people respond in different ways, but those of us that are here to help others, I think that's sort of like the shadow side. People
Mhm,
pleasing is the shadow side of being here to serve and help others. But yes, I think for me, like the more that I've looked at this and really broken it down, and I think it's similar to a lot of other things, like the first step is just like getting an awareness of it.
mhm,
And and I think what leads to that awareness is when you're experiencing a great amount of suffering and pain because of this way that you're behaving, and only in, hitting that same brick wall multiple times or entering into these cycles of negative relationship dynamics or whatever it is, will it only when that pain is high enough will it cause you to, like, sort of stop and look at,
yeah.
like, what's going on here? And I think that's what happened for me.
Mm,
And I would say it was like it makes me think of the ocean with, like, the waves, if you're just, like, at the shore. I think I got bathed in levels of awareness, like, slowly over time, because, things would happen, I'm like, "What's going on here?" And then I would just participate in the same thing again, and I'm like, "Wait, what's going on here?" And it had to get to the point of, like, intense burnout, of, like, multiple unhealthy relationships, like, it just got so intense that I was like, "Okay, What's happening here? And what part am I playing in it? Because I think that's a big part of it too. Um, a part of like, you need to be aware, but you also have to be open to accepting the part that you play in it. Like, there's a self-responsibility, and I think that that can be really challenging because the ego really, wants to protect you, and in its protection of you, likes to paint a story of how it's everyone else's fault, you know? I couldn't possibly have done anything wrong. I'm good. I help people. I'm looking out for their best needs. I'm just trying to make them happy,
Yes.
And so there's also like that sort of reckoning with yourself of like all of this might be true. Like, yes, I am good and I am trying to help people and I am doing my best, but
Mhm.
also like maybe that's not 100% working for me. Maybe I'm
Mhm.
not seeing the whole thing clearly. Like there's two people participating in the dynamic. So, yeah, I think like radical self-honesty and like self-awareness. Um, and I'm trying to think because you asked sort of like about what got me looking at this and like changing things, right?
Yeah.
Um, I think it was kind of a long drawn out process of just exploring and figuring out what was wrong. I don't know if there was, like, one moment or, like, one teacher where I finally figured it out. I feel like I've been following these little breadcrumbs along
Mhm.
the way, um, and as far as, like, getting to the awareness that I have now of it being, like, a nervous system response, like, that was at the end of the trail. Like, I didn't even know what nervous system activation was. I didn't learn what emotional regulation was until I was in my 30s,
Yes.
so I think I just came out of childhood with a large gap in my what do I wanna call it? Like, the personal inquiry side of
Mm.
life, I didn't really know anything about that, and, um, that's okay, not everybody is, like, delivered out into the world in the same with the same, you know, chapters in their book. Um, but yeah, I think it just took a series of many what you could call failures, just
Mhm.
just epically falling on my face in all the ways that I could fall on my face,
Mhm.
um, to kind of humble me in a way. I have to be, like, honest about that, because I don't know, for I was very attached for a long time to, like, the narrative of being good, I'm good. And it was really hard for me to be like, "Well, I might, like, inherently be good, but I've also, like, made some mistakes, and I've also acted inappropriately and, like, done things that I shouldn't probably have done," and, but, like, also what I wanna add on here is getting to that place of humility, but, like, from a space of love. Because I think sometimes we'll, like, be honest with ourselves, but then it just becomes this, like, self-hate, like, self-judgment, self-deprecation, and then you're still, like, playing into the ego game, and it's like, can you see yourself clearly, be radically honest with yourself, and still love what's there? Like, still love yourself in all the mistakes that you've made and the imperfection of your humanness, because 'cause we're all, like, the same, we're all in the same boat with that. So, I don't know, I'm not sure if that exactly answers your
It does. It does. It does. Every time you allow yourself to flow and go to the answers, you actually answer my question in complete depth, you know? And I'm absolutely enjoying it. What I get from your answer is like number one is facing the darkness, basically, the falling on your face again and again and again. And finally, like falling on your face again and again, you're like, you kind of like wake up, like, how many times it's going to repeat, Very recently, actually, my last podcast, I had my guest, my friend Nikhil, and he was also sharing something like, he was like in a hamster wheel kind of experience. And I was like, You think, "Oh, did you like in a hamster wheel?" And you suddenly realize that you're going on in a hamster wheel and the hamster wakes up. It's like, yeah, precisely. And it's like almost everybody's experience. Like we suddenly the cycle intensifies us, and suddenly you realize that, oh, I'm stuck. And if I keep going, the same thing is going to repeat. And then you mentioned about the part like when you actually have to face your darkness and see like, okay, there might be some imperfections in me, and the identity can be questioned, which is I think the darkest part, questioning the identity itself. Because your identity is like basically who you are at that moment. To question that means you're like shattering the very ground that you're standing on. You're going to fall into complete oblivion, and that is what the ego is scared of. The ego likes the identity because it gives you an idea of who you are not, what you're about, what you're against. But if that is questioned, you're like, dude, where am I? What is this? Like, seriously. And that is like the scary. That is what people, I think, experience as ego death. But we soon realize that the moment you are at that stage, and that's when you mentioned that at that moment you are going to self judge yourself, but then you start integrating and you start recognizing that even these imperfections are honorable. They're part of my journey and they need not be shunned. And that is when you've created a healthy identity, you know, a more awakened, lighter identity, which is the rebirth process. Does it resonate with you?
Yeah, absolutely, and I was just as you were speaking about that, especially, like, the integration part, I'm thinking about because you asked a question too about self-worth, and I think, it's so interesting, all of the like, being on social media and getting all of the self-help and, like, spiritual stuff that's out there. I on the one hand, like, it resonates with me so much, and on the other hand, I'm like, "No, like, this is flat." It's like
Mm,
it's not a physical object, it's not, like, representing the whole thing. I really like to take in all of the nuance, and I don't think it's always as black and white as it is, and anyway, I'm tying this back. Um, as far as, like, reaching a place of compassion with myself about my past experiences and, like, my failed relationships and, like, my career changes and all those things that I really, like, judged myself for a long time, and as much as we like to say, "I don't need external validation, and I don't need anyone to love me for me to love myself," like, sometimes sometimes that's an important part of it, you
yeah.
know? Like, there's work you can do on your own, but I think, having good people in your life that, like, actually accept you for who you are goes a really long way in, like, you also being able to do that for yourself. So I'm not saying you can't do it without other people, like, you need that external validation. There's so much, like, legwork you can do on your own in that, like, personal
Yeah.
relationship you have with yourself,
Hmm.
but it's like the difference between, like, giving yourself a hug and, like, having a hug from another person. It's just not the same. Well, and so I was just thinking, I had a lot of, um, shame about my past, and then, I met my current partner, and when I first met him, I told him everything, like, right off the bat, because I was like, "I don't wanna get into this if you're gonna, like, judge me for my past," you know?
Yeah.
And, um, and he was like, "Oh, no big deal." Like, he just kinda took it in stride, and I was like, "What?" Um, but then, years on the line and, things are going well, and it's like the nervous system has relaxed, like, I'm feeling, safe in this relationship, and, like, I don't know, I think integration can be quite a process, and you can't force it, and sometimes part of that integration into a place of, like, knowing your value or, like, having a sense of self-worth or whatever it is, giving yourself compassion for your past, like,
Mm.
it also like, other people can play a part in that or, like, your community can play a part in that. So, yeah, I hope that I've, like, spoken that clearly. So I'm not saying that it's, like, it all hinges on that, but I'm just saying it can really play a positive
Mm.
part in it.
I love that. I love that. Hardly much people talk about or go into these nuances because these needs to be talked about, because the things that you were talking about, the themes of, like when somebody's coming out of people pleasing. So number one, the first phase is like you are stuck in people pleasing and you don't even know. Like, some people who are beyond you, they can say, oh, this person is people pleasing. But you are like, this is how it is. This is how it needs to be done. I'm doing the right thing. Everything is okay. Until you get like a big, big swelling in your head after hitting your head on the wall a long time. You're like, okay, there's something wrong with me. Right. And then you start working on people pleasing, but you are hurt so bad that the anger gets projected outwards. And sometimes, oftentimes, there are people who have done stuff to us, which has been the cause of our swelling. And that is why the projection goes so much outwards, and that we enter this phase, which is like, I don't need anyone. I don't care about anyone. I mean, nobody. The whole era you enter, right? And you see so much of that in the social media. It is happening to guys in a certain ways. They go to the gym and build the muscle, and it's happening to the women in a certain ways. But it's the same thing, like trying to block the heart in a certain way and projecting into somebody else. You know,
Yeah.
and then when that integrates, that is when somebody like you come and says like, oh, okay, it is not just about that, not just about this, it's about the yin and the yang, the whole thing. If you want to live in the world, you do need to be in the world. And the hug from another person matters just as a hug from myself. Self-love and what you might call love from the universe externally and love from the universe internally, both are needed. And I think that is where it truly starts integrating, you know? And that and I'm so glad you're mentioning about this, because this is so deep and so profound. And this is not very popular. If you see, nobody talks about it, because I think right now the collective is at that middle stage, and they need to be talked about in that brash way. Like, take care of your own business, mind your own business, don't talk about your stuff, don't care about other people. They need that kind of burden. But then again, there are people who are right about to enter exit that threshold, and they need people like you who can share that, that is okay, that is needed. The stuff beyond that. And I'm so glad you're sharing about this, Yeah. Yes, 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 continue.
I was gonna say, I think it's really tough because, all of this, like, people pleasing and perfectionism, it's all developed out of, like, relational trauma,
Yeah.
and so it's really I feel it's, like, the final act of courage to, like,
Wow.
re-engage in relating to others with an open heart. I'm getting, like, goosebumps talking about it, when you've been hurt so badly in the past by doing that, you know? But it really is, like, that is the final integration because you can and that's the final embodiment, like, you can talk all day about how you've healed and, you're not afraid anymore and all these things. You're independent, you don't need anybody, but, like, at the end of the day, like, we are human beings, no matter how much spiritual ego we don't wanna have anything to do with being human, and I'm, like, completely there sometimes, I'm like, "Ugh, what is this human thing?" But we are humans, and humans are meant to relate to one another. We're not one human on the whole planet, there's billions of us, and another thing that really sticks out to me, from time to time, there's, like, articles or videos about people on their deathbed talking about their lives and, like, what really mattered to them, and, like, it's the relationships, it's the people in their lives, you know? Like, you can accumulate piles of money, you can accumulate houses and other things, but your money and your cars and your house aren't gonna remember you. It's the people in your life that will remember you. That's how you live on, you know? And
Yes.
so, like, you can't deny this, like, fundamental want to, like, relate to others and, be in relationship with them. And I'm as guilty as the next person of, like, I love people, but sometimes I don't wanna be around them. You Like, I love thinking about them, but I don't like, when I get around them, I'm like, "Oh, I'm so annoyed." But, that's me, like, that's just me, something with my relational trauma that I'm dealing with, and, um but yeah, I think we're meant to relate to one another, and that's where That's like the final step, I feel like, in the healing is returning to the place that hurt you,
Yeah.
like, whole and being, like, courageous and, like, being able to hold yourself in that space and not be hurt anymore, you know? And I'm not saying go back to, like, the person that abused you, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, like, if you had, like, a traumatic community experience, whether that was, like, school or religion or some
Yeah.
group, like, the ultimate healing is to then find a new community of people where you can, like, show up and be loved and be held, and then even when people are being jerks sometimes, like, you're still okay, you know? But I think we're headed there. I don't think we're quite there yet with the community spaces, you know? But that's what I'm seeing, like, more and more,
Mm.
for sure.
That really touched me when you mentioned about, if you have had a traumatic school experience, which I did. So I was like connecting with it. I was like, yeah, like, because of the whole school experience, I have not healed it yet. I was like physically assaulted, I was physically bullied, and I did not know what a trauma was. I had heard about trauma, and until I spoke with a very good friend of mine, and she told me, "Debjit, you had traumas." I'm like, "No, I did not have traumas." Traumas are big incidents when people have, like, some form of big abuse. They have, they maybe, some very big incident. I had a school stuff, would be, but she was like, "No, you were having a long term traumatic episode." And now she has herself gone through actual traumas, which I know can be actually considered trauma. When she says that, I was like, okay, if she's saying it, that means maybe I have had a traumatic life. And that was like a huge thing. And I got to understand, yeah, I had some traumas I explained with my father also. And I'm like, okay, these things that I did not wanted to label as traumas because they're not that big, I shouldn't do that, there's normal pains of growing pains or whatever. They were actually traumatic, and so when I realized, I'm like, wow. And now when you mentioned about when you have traumatic school experience, I was like, wow, because of that thing, which I'm not yet completely healed, I'm working on it. What happens is I have this fear which always comes up, and I intellectualize it, I give it logic, and there is, of course, logic which are reasonable. That is like, if I ever have a child, I do not want my child to definitely go to a school, probably homeschool, probably to unschooling, probably to some other form of school. And I know there's definite logic behind it, which everybody will universally more or less agree. But I know behind it also my own fears, which is getting projected outwards, which will mess up with the actual operations if I ever have a child. So I was like, that is not okay. I need to heal this. But when you mentioned that, that can be healed when you don't have to go to the school back or find another community. And I'm like, wow, because that is precisely what happened when I went to university. And not during my bachelor's, during my master's, I remember that is when I had such a healthy community during my MBA. I was like, but, like, people can be actually good people, and I had actually nice friends and amazing experiences that I can remember. And this made so much sense that the same thing you might not need to revisit, but you can create a healthier counterpart for it to evolve out of it. Thank you so much for saying that. That was deeply, deeply, yeah, valuable, you know?
Yeah, I'm glad that it landed with you. I think, what I've noticed in my own experience is that sometimes I'll be in certain situations where my nervous system will start reacting, and to my logical brain, everything's fine. It's, like, completely normal, there's no reason to be afraid, but for whatever reason, there's this disconnect between my logical conscious brain and
Yeah.
my subconscious body reaction, and so I've noticed this a lot, especially this year. It's been something that I have been really, like, presently aware from
Mhm.
and or about, and, I think, like, I'm no expert. I'm not an expert on trauma, but, my understanding of it is basically, like, the nervous system didn't have a chance to, like, work through fully and come to some sort of, like, resolution and, regulation after whatever happened.
Yeah.
And so it's like when we encounter similar situations out in life, the nervous system gets activated again because it's like sensing the similar context or whatever.
Yeah.
And so um, for me as like a highly logical person, it's been extremely frustrating because I'm like, I'm in a Zoom chat with like other people. Why am I trembling right now? And so, and you can really get stuck in that, like your brain fighting your body. Like, why are you doing that? This doesn't make any sense. You're embarrassing us. And the body's just over here, like, you know.
Yeah. That.
But the fight, the internal fight, this is something that I've come across recently. So we have like our fight, flight, freeze to the outside world, but I experience that inside too. My body comes up and is like doing something and I start fighting with it. I'm like,
Mm.
"No, stop it." It's like it's like this internal experience of nervous system activation and I'm actually like activated towards myself. So,
Yes.
like, I can't create a safe space inside myself because 'cause I'm having
Mm.
this, like, "No, stop it," and then it's like or, I can't stop it so that I just go run away with, like, scrolling for hours or, like, eating or, like, watching a show. Like, it's the same thing. We're having, like, a survival response to our internal experience.
Mm.
And so,
Mm.
like, how do you step out of that loop? It's like to realize that whatever's happening to you, it's not a threat, so it's like it's okay to let it be there, which that's so easy for me to say. That's a completely different thing to like live that in an embodied way.
Mm.
Um, but what I've noticed for myself, it's like it's all about capacity, right? Like you
Mm.
just slowly build your capacity over time in like a really compassionate, loving way. So like for me, I'll give like a concrete example having this activation to like being in community and groups. Um, one thing that's really helped me, and it's taken a long time, I would say it's been like the entire year. I've been going to this yoga class like a couple times a week, and it
Mm.
allows me to like show up in community in a safe space. Um, and I don't always personally like feel safe there, but that's not because of the space. It's because I feel uncomfortable in group settings.
Yeah.
But, like, slowly over time, like, because our bodies and our nervous systems need, like, this consistency, right? So it's like you just keep going and, like, show yourself for an hour twice a week that it's safe. It's safe to be in community. No one's gonna make fun of you, like, you're not gonna be cast out, like and just, like, hold space for yourself in that space consistently over and over and over, and then you'll see 6, 8 months, 10 months later that you're different in that
Yeah.
space, you know? But I feel like too, like, this doesn't get talked about a lot because it's not easy. It's not an easy solution. It's not like we want this instant gratification, like, show me the way that I can just like fix this overnight. It's like, no, it's like devotion. You have to be like devoted to yourself and like holding yourself and like dipping your toes in those uncomfortable waters and
Mm.
then going over and bringing yourself a towel and saying, it's okay, I'll dry off your toe, I know the water's cold," and doing that, like, 100 times before your body's like, "Okay, like, you're gonna show up for me, I trust that you're here, um, everything really is okay." But it's not to a brain that can make a connection in 2 seconds, like, "Yes, this is this way and that's that way." The body's not like that. The
Mm.
body doesn't think in these, like, logical terms. It's definitely actions speak louder than words, and,
Yeah.
like, consistent, steady actions over time speak louder than words. You and, like, I guess the last piece that I wanna add here is that it doesn't need to be perfect. It's like it's just a process of self-devotion. So I think a
Mm.
lot of people too get really stuck in, like they'll do something for a little while and then stop, and it's like, when it comes to the relationship with yourself, when it comes to any relationship, like, how do you learn to trust somebody? It's them, like, being consistent and, like, showing up over time. Like, how do you learn to trust your partner? They're gonna stay there even if you're crying, if you're happy, if you're angry, they're gonna show up for you. And that's what we have to do for ourselves as well. It's like that consistency over time. Like, you don't need to be a perfect person. You don't need to never make mistakes, but you do
Yeah.
have to, like, keep showing up. And I think that's, like, the self-abandonment piece for me
Yes.
is, like, the fact that I just stopped showing up,
Mm.
like, "This is too hard. I don't know what to do." And then you go back to, like, your coping mechanisms of,
Yeah.
one of the things, like, fight, flight, freeze inside of yourself.
Mhm.
Like, you fight, flight, freeze, fawn yourself.
Mm.
So
Completely makes sense. Completely makes sense. I'm glad you shared about this too, because I want to bring this out because you are going to be helping people very, very soon. So if my audience, you are watching, you know, Rebecca is going to be helping people with people pleasing very, very soon. She doesn't have offers yet, but she's taking this, she's doing research calls, which we're going to talk about at the end. But because you're going to be creating offers and helping people, and you're already fantastic at it because you're just talking about it in so much depth, so my audience can also see like she is the right person for this work. So I want to also talk about the coaching area and the offerings of this modern healing world, where you will notice at the moment, there's a lot of offers and services which are around short term, result oriented, fast stuff like, get results in 6 weeks, get results in 8 weeks, 12 weeks. And I'm not exactly saying that, these structures are bad, structures are structures meant for certain results. But like you were sharing, these things, nervous system regulation, these take time. You cannot expect that I'll give you something, and within 6 weeks, you're going to be feeling completely comfortable around people if you have traumatic experiences with community. I mean, like, if you give somebody something like that, how grounded is that? Like, seriously speaking, like, it doesn't even make sense, right? And yet, since I myself went through nervous system dysregulation 2 months back, and now that I'm allowing myself space, taking care of myself, understanding what is capacity for the first time in my life, I am starting to see the most of the world is living in a dysregulated state. And the businesses of the modern world as kind of like using it and capitalizing on it. Right, because when you are very, very dysregulated, you cannot access your intuition, you cannot access your groundedness, you cannot judge what is the right thing from the wrong thing, what is short-term beneficial, what is long-term beneficial, because you really are in such a state of dysregulation. You are like, I just get want to out of this, like, you know, or this is too hateful, I don't like it, fight, or I just don't know, freeze. You are literally dysregulated, and you see the consume, and I know we're deviating topic a little bit here, but it's so connected, right? This is the market and everything. It's the consumerism and everything. You see the urgency marketing and the whole pushing, and the whole thing that happens, which is very much working only because people are dysregulated. Why people are choosing short term things which actually cannot deliver results if you think about that, rather than somebody saying like, hey, this thing will require maybe 1 year or 2 years or more, depending where you're at, how deep your traumas. You know, such a thing won't sell. People will get to somebody else. And what does it tell, right? A dysregulated collective itself making dysregulated choices, not taking care of the dysregulation itself. I just wanted to bring it up because you touched on this. Do you resonate with this? But I just
I
described.
resonate. Yes, I resonate so much. It's so I've been thinking about this, especially yesterday. I was thinking about it like, there's so much beauty in like waking up and like becoming self-aware and all of this. But at the same time, like it presents immense challenge because you're every day like asked to step out into the world surrounded by like an energy that's feels different and it's trying to pull you into it. And you're like, no, like I know I can't see around me, like, people that value regulation or value whatever it is, but, like, I know this is important, like, it just really requires you to stand in what you know is true for you.
Yeah.
Um, and yes, like just surrounded by dysregulation. And I think this resonates so much. What do I want to say? First of all, I think when it comes to the offers I'm creating, because I am working on that right now, I think like my minimum time with somebody is definitely going to be 6 months because I just feel like it's such a process. And I think sometimes things they can go great at the beginning, but then life happens and like things sometimes when you're working on this like get harder, like worse for a little while. And like that's like exactly the point where a lot of programs end and you're just like leaving someone to hang, you know? So, but I really believe there's people out there that are in a place where
Mm,
like they know that they're in dysregulation more than regulation and like
yeah.
having trouble building their capacity and like in that freeze place, right? Like I just don't know what to do because I've definitely been there and it's like, if someone were to present them with something like, "Hey, like I've been there, but it's going to take a little while. Do you want to work together?" Like like to take that step. It's
Yeah.
not going to be like you're not going to be like the millionaire coach maybe overnight, but um, in the end, I have to ask myself, like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? And like, I don't think, if I make millions, great, but that's not the point. Like, that's not my motivation in doing this work. Like,
Yes.
my motivation in doing this work is to serve others. And I know, like, if my if that's my sole purpose here in this life, like, I will be supported in doing that sole purpose, whatever that looks like. And um, I don't need to have mansions and cars and things like that in order to be fulfilled. Like we talked about in the beginning, like at the end of life, it's like how many lives did I touch? How many beautiful relationships did I have? How many people felt loved? That's what's important to me. So I can't speak for everyone out there in the coaching business. Maybe other people have different goals and that's fine, but like the money's not the motivator for me. It's a tool that we need to, do these things out in the world, and it's
Take
just
care of ourselves.
it's our form of currency at the moment. In the past, people traded different things, and it wasn't, dollars and cents. Um, but yeah, I think those who are on a soul mission will find their way. They'll be supported. Even when I was very, very lost, I've always been supported by the universe, and it was always enough. Maybe not
Mm,
enough for, like, my ego ideas or, like, what society thought it should be, but, you know. So,
absolutely.
yeah, but, there's definitely the other thing that I wanted to say is that even you saying that about, like, the world being dysregulated, like, that just shows me more and more, like, how important this work is because, like, in order to I don't know. I don't think, we're gonna save the world, and I don't think the world will ever be, like, totally at peace, but, like, there's obviously a rise in the collective of people wanting to like, they're seeing this, they're gaining this awareness of, like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm in dysregulation, I'm in survival mode, I'd like to, like, live in a different way," and the only way like, assist those people is to, like, first be able to live that in an embodied way, like, can I show up regulated
Yes.
on a consistent basis amidst the dysregulation of the world. And I also wanna say too, like, the goal is not, like, 100% regulation all the time. It's like it's the capacity thing, right? Like, can I be dysregulated among these other dysregulated people, but still have conscious awareness and, like, as much as possible, behave in a loving way? As much as possible, be, like, the safe space that I wish to encounter in the world? And can I be so aware of my capacity that I know when to, like, reel it back and go take care of
Mm,
myself, you know? So I think, mainly, that's been my practice lately, like, as I explore in this business and, like, create and, figure out where it's all going, I'm also, like, cultivating that space within myself because I think in the work that I do, Um, it's more of a space holding container.
Yeah.
Like, it's more of a relational healing container. It's not so much I have this program and we're gonna go from step 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, like, I don't it's not structured like that, like, sometimes I have a hard time, like, what to label myself, but I definitely I wouldn't say coach because we're not training on anything, it's like, if you're ready to experience regulation, if you're ready to, like, sit in a space of, like, being held in, like, a safe emotional space, like, that's what we'll do together, and there's something in order for me to offer that, I really have to embody it, and I care greatly about the integrity of that, I don't wanna be, like, signing people up for a 6-month or 12-month container, and I can't hold that space for them because I'm not honoring my body and I'm not, taking care of myself, So, yeah, that's what I've been working on right now, and I mentioned at the beginning that I'm taking, like, this little break from social media this week, and that's part of it, Sometimes it's, like, too much. All that stuff is too much. Just need to dial it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It truly is. Like, I have been taking a break myself. I used to be so much on threads. Last 2 weeks, like sometimes just open threads and I'm like, oh, I'm overwhelmed with looking at it. Forget normal social media. So threads, anyways, is like less stimulating. But still, like, as a sensitive person, you feel the energy behind every sentence, kind of like, and too many energies coming all at once. I'm like, okay, not right now. Okay, I'm going to come back at it later. And I'm glad we are talking about it, anyways, because we have 15 more minutes in the podcast. So I want to ask some really interesting questions. So I'm glad that I got to explore the spiritual side of you because you hardly shared that much in the reels. My audience, I will request go watch Rebecca's reels. She has tons of content on people pleasing. But my intention to bring her was to get the depth out of her, the spirituality, the whole thing, because I knew, that needs to be talked about. Now, you did mention about perfectionism. You did mention about you being very logical, being very rational, and the whole thing. So I can relate. I have perfectionism problem myself, and I'm working on it. So, and you did mention about like how your offering when it's going to come out. It's not going to be a rigid program like a step 1, step 2, step 3, which is how I used to be too, because that's what the coaches used to talk about. Like, point A to point B. What is your point B? I'm like, yeah, that makes sense to the mind so much, but it is not so linear, this healing journey. It requires so many variables, and the one variable is me. Like, do I have space myself? And it's the not so simple, right? So now that you would mention the word container, and I so resonate with that because a container is not a staircase. A container is like a field where you enter and you partake in the energy and you get what you're ready to receive, depending on your availability, depending on your capacity, depending on your resonance. This is kind of on the higher mystical realms and stuff. How did your logical, rational mind process it? Did it not put up a fight? Like, what are we doing? What are we talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's such a great question. My mind is still trying to deal with it and make
Yeah.
sense of it. Um, I think, like anything, I'm finding the happy medium with it, right? So, I think what do I wanna say about this? Like, first of all, it's about how like, me seeing that as, like, a valid service to offer
Yeah.
was also recognizing that I've gained immense value from other people who have, just held space for me with no
Yeah.
agenda. Because definitely there's a part of me that's like, "Oh, is this, like" is someone gonna, like, pay for this? Will it, like, be worth it, you know? That, like, little imposter syndrome coming in. Um, but time and time again, I just, like, see the value of others holding space,
Yeah.
like, no fixing,
Mm.
no advice giving, just, like, being there, right? Like, I always go back to the analogy of, when you lose someone, someone dies,
Yeah.
like, there's literally nothing anyone can do to make you feel better. Like, they can't say anything, you can't give you any food, like, whatever it is, maybe it'll provide, like, a tiny sense of release, but mostly you're just sitting there carrying this really heavy thing.
Y
And, like, but you don't wanna be alone. Like, it's really nice to have someone, like, next to you while you're carrying this heavy thing.
yeah.
And so I think, there's just immense value in, like, the space that one can hold for another. Um,
Yeah.
and and also, like we talked about, we're living in a world of dysregulation, and it's really tough to find people that can hold, like, a regulated space for you. Um, so I do think there's value in it, you know? I don't think, like, people should I don't know, we could get into, like, the money part of it. I don't need to, like, charge gazillions of dollars for it, but it's valuable, you know?
It
It's just I think the challenge is, selling it to a logical brain. That's like selling this thing that's like a cloud to, like, a brain that wants something it can hold or have an outline of or that type of thing. So, I'm in the midst of figuring that out, and I guess
yeah.
I think one thing that helps me with it is, like, getting a little logical about what the process has looked like for me of being,
Mhm.
like, completely unaware to, like, integration
Mhm.
and, what that journey looks like. So because I think that that journey is similar for people, so that sort of gives an outline of, like, where things might go, during the container. But who knows, like, how long it will take, and also, there's a lot of, like, circling back on my journey. It's been a lot of, like,
That is true.
spirals. Sometimes you, like, think you've integrated something, and then it's like, "Nope, actually, in this context, I haven't." Like, it's just, like, revisiting the pathways.
Yeah.
But I think I keep landing on this label of guide, right? Because I think, you explore this new path, like, where am I gonna go with my people pleasing? What is this land of people pleasing all about?
Yeah.
And then you have a guide that kind of, like, takes you down this path and takes you down this path and takes you down this one. And then, in the future sometime, the guide might not be there, but you're like, "Oh, I already walked down this path, like, I kinda know. Oh, I remember that tree. I remember that rock." Like, kinda, like, shows you the lay of the land a little bit. Um, that's, like, sort of the metaphor that, like, lands for me. And I also like to think of it, so, like, there's that part, and then I also like to think of it in terms of, like, a dating relationship, but it's like you're dating yourself. So, I think in the container, like, that relationship gets more serious over time as you, like, build like, you get to know each other in the beginning, and then it's like, "Okay, we're gonna date each other, like, let's make this a little more serious. I'm gonna learn about your nervous system, you learn about mine, like, but this is all internal with you." And then it's like, "Oh, we're gonna get engaged, like, this is really serious." And then, hopefully by the time someone leaves the container, they've, like, married themselves. Like, they're committed. They're they're devoted for, like, the good and the bad, the rich and the poor, you know what I mean? Because I think when I think about my relationship with myself and, like, self-abandonment, there was so much, like, running away. Like, "Oh, this thing came up in my life. I don't know how to handle it.
Mhm.
Peace out." Like, like, "You're too much for me," or, like, "Your behavior is just too toxic. I'm out of here," like you see in all the dating stuff. But, like, you can leave another person, but when you leave yourself, like, the
Please.
only person that gets hurt is you. So, like, teaching yourself how to, like, be safe staying with yourself even when some parts of you are being toxic, you know?
Wow, this is amazing. Like, when you mentioned the word guide, of course, we have heard of it, but in this context, it so beautifully connects because somebody who has explored their own people pleasing, have explored their own inner maps, and now somebody new, now they can help them because they have already explored this destination. They know things that you wouldn't know about yourself. Like you mentioned, like going to a date and going by that reactions, and you would be like, hey, can you make the discernment between what is coming from outside and what is coming from inside, because you have explored the map. So this is like so truly valuable, you know and this deserves the kind of reciprocation, the energetic reciprocation, in the form of money, energy, and other forms, of course, because this is true guide work. Absolutely. The word actually truly suits the things that we are discussing about. Thank you so much. Now, we're almost at the end of our podcast. So, would you like to share with our audience a little bit about what these research calls are about? Because me and you, we met and we chatted, and it was like, you thought it was one of our research calls. In fact, actually, I reached out to you. So I was like, "Wait, what is going on?" But I was like, oh, she is actively doing these research calls. And you did mention about that. And would you like to share what are these research calls about? What happens? Who should be going for such a research call? What can they expect? Let's hear about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, since I think it's been since August, I've been hosting these research calls on the topics of people pleasing and perfectionism. And essentially, the intent was just to learn, like, connect with people, obviously, and also learn more about other people's experiences of people pleasing and perfectionism. Because I have my own story, but it's really so interesting to learn about other people's experiences, see how they talk about it, and also experience, like, the different levels of awareness. Some people are, like, just figuring this out. Some people have been, like, onto it for years, or some people really I've spoken to several people that are like, "I'm over it, like, I've moved through the people pleasing, it's just, like, not a thing anymore," which I find fascinating. I love to, like, experience their energy. Um, so who is this for? This is for anyone that identifies or, like, resonates with experiencing people pleasing or perfectionism on their personal growth journey, at whatever stage they're at.
Mm,
And I host these 45-minute Zoom calls, and just I have some guided questions, some guiding questions, just to hear about, like, the experience in general, how they define it, maybe, like, some things that have caused them challenges, or, like, ways that they've struggled with it, and then also stuff that's helping them, like, move through it or live more
mm,
authentically. And then sometimes the conversations take a turn, and we'll talk about other stuff that's, like, not specifically on this theme, but somehow related. I just leave it open to however the conversation is flowing.
mhm,
But yes, I just take, like, 45 minutes of your time to just, like, chat and learn about your experiences. And it's been really lovely, like, learning from other people, and I feel like, um I've asked for testimonials too, so that if people are, like, nervous about it and they want to, like, see other people's
yeah,
experiences, I have those that I can offer. But what I've noticed is that, um, people kinda came to it, like, expecting to just, share with me about their stuff, but they came away feeling like, "Wow, that was kinda nice to have that conversation." Like, I felt really safe chatting with her, and it helped me
yeah,
kind of, like, look at things in a different way. And, it seems like it's been a positive experience for those who have, participated. And, yeah, initially, the intent was, like, to help inform too. Like, I wanna create something, like, an offering that's just really grounded and practical,
mhm,
in real life. Like, as much as I love the airy-fairy, like, spiritual things, at the end of the day, like, I just wanna keep what I offer super grounded and, like, practical. I think the worst thing for me is when someone, like, gives me this advice and I'm like, "But how? Like, what am I like, that's a nice idea, but, like, what do I do with this?" So, like, talking to people and hearing, like, their real experiences and, like, their real struggles and, like, the real things that have helped them,
yeah,
um, is helping, like, inform this offering that I can give to people. So, yeah, and I'm gonna keep doing the research calls for a while. I think it's just, it's a really nice it's a nice way to connect with people. I think, I'll just add this one little thing because I know we're getting towards the end, but a lot of times on social media and, like, part of why I got off of it for many years is because it gives you this, like, illusion of connection without actually, like, having the
Mm,
connection, and, so but I notice, like, a lot of times people are hesitant to connect, like, you, like, send them a message and they're like, "Why are you talking to me?" It's like, "Well, you followed me," but they're like, "Oh, no, no, like, distance, distance." And, like, to each their own, but, like, I wanna use it to, like, actually connect with people,
yeah.
and this conversation, this research call, like, gives us a reason to connect, and it's really lovely, like, to hop on a Zoom with someone in another part of the world and just, like, have a heart-to-heart connection.
So
So, that's hopefully, like, uplifting for both of us. But
it
yeah.
is. It is. I mean, I remember our first chat, you know, you did ask me a few questions at the end, and I remembered accessing some of my memories, and it did reveal things about me, and I was like, wow, I was like, I wasn't expecting that from that conversation, but it did happen. And so I would tell my audience, my conversation with Rebecca really quickly led to discovering something that I might not have consciously gone there. And because Rebecca has been exploring the map of people pleasing and how it connects with the geography of your other traumas and everything, she's like a very skilled guide in this area. And if you do have that research call in that 45 minutes, you might have some cool experiences that you will leave with. I can say for sure. And before we end our podcast, I would also want my audience to know about your newsletters, the weekly exhale, and what do we get from that? Because I have subscribed to it, but I didn't get chance to read it because last 2 weeks I was so overwhelmed. I was also taking a break from social media like you were, but I am going to get back to it. Would you like to share a little bit about the weekly Excel? What is it about? Why should somebody subscribe?
Yeah, so every week, on Mondays, I send out the Monday exhale, and, I try to keep it fairly short. It's like a 4-minute read max, and I like to call it's like a love note, and I guess every week it's gonna be different. It's really inspired by whatever I'm living that week, but my intention is for it just to be like less than 5-minute opportunity for you to slow down and create some space in your life. So, um, yeah, I'll just share like, for example, this past week, I've been weaning off of caffeine, and I've been, experiencing all kinds of things because of that, and so I've been at capacity, and so I've just been sharing I just shared, like, a little tidbit about, like, this is what it's like when I'm at capacity, and these are the things that my mind is saying, but this is how I, like, find space around it. Um, so it's just a little share from my life that hopefully at the end of it, you'll feel like, I could just, like, exhale for a moment. So it is tied in around themes of people pleasing, perfectionism, and overthinking because that really informs my life experience. But I would say that it also, like, enters into, like, self-inquiry and spiritual inquiry as well, but, like, in a very grounded way.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I'm glad you called that the Monday Excel. I messed up the name before I called it Weekly Excel. I'm very sorry. But the thing about the exhale, like feels like a release. There's very nervous system related terminology, and I like it. I like you call it that. And I am going to be reading it this week. I have subscribed to it this week. And everybody who is watching this, if you want to subscribe, Rebecca's all links will be in her link tree in the description of this video. You guys can access it. You can book the research call. You can access the email subscription. And I also want you to quickly tell my audience about the two freebies that you've got, because if somebody's like, okay, this is cool, what can I get my hands on to know what she has to give me? You have the 5-day reset, free workbook, and the self-devotion tracker. Sounds really cool. The self-devotion tracker. What are they about?
Okay, so I'll go with the self-devotion tracker first. That's like a little bit, it's a smaller resource. But basically, like you all know, I have a very like logical brain that likes to make lists and things like that. Um, so it's like a very it's taking like the to-do list and merging it with self-compassion. So a lot of times we make lists of like all the things that we do or like productive stuff that you have proof of, but we forget like, did I stop to take a deep breath? Like, did I stop to give myself some compassion? Did I stop to just like these things? It's like self-love and like all the attention that we might need, but the things that we forget to put on our list.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that I use personally to like kind of just help keep things in balance. And so I decided to share it. So if anyone's interested in that, it's just sort of it's like a little download. And I also have a customizable version. So if you don't like my selections, I you can have the template and put your own little things in there. Um, so yeah, that's a self-devotion tracker, and I think it's like a self-love tool, like if you struggle with the self-love or you struggle with the self-devotion, it's like a fun little resource to kinda keep you on track
Cool.
with yourself. And then the other so it's the intentional as fuck, 5-day reset. And this is what started my whole journey with this time around. But basically, it's an ebook to walk you through just getting spending more intentional time with yourself for 5 days straight. So, one thing I really struggled with was, like, sticking to a regular meditation practice or, like, sticking to a regular journaling practice, like, actually showing up for myself every day.
Mm.
And so if you're in a place where you're like, "I really wanna do this and I wanna do it, like, every single day consistently," I created this little workbook for that. So it kinda guides you through, like, setting an intention. It's a whole if you, like, want to print the whole thing out or use it on an iPad or whatever, it has, like, pages for journaling and pages for writing your intention, and it encourages you to do, like, 10 minutes of quiet time each day, 10 minutes of journaling, just to spend some intentional time with yourself.
Wow. That sounds very regulating to me. The whole vibe of the 5-day reset is like, being more intentional with yourself, right? And just 5 days, nothing too overwhelming for you that you're going to feel like, oh my God. So, guys, if you have resonated with what we have discussed and Rebecca has shared with you, do explore these two freebies, especially the devotion tracker, self devotion tracker, and the 5-day reset, because this can get you on the journey of self regulation that we have been exploring in this entire podcast. So, thank you so much, Rebecca, for joining me on this podcast. I'm truly, truly happy. Is that your cat? I think it's. I speak. No, no, it's okay. I love it. What's your dog's name?
My dog's name is Tess. Tess, you wanna come say hi? Come here. You didn't even see her, Ben. Come.
I'm so glad at the end of our podcast we are getting. Oh my God. Oh my God. Tess is lovely. Look at. Oh my God. We get a guest appearance right at the end of the podcast. Thank you so much, Tess. And thank you so much, Rebecca, for joining me on this podcast. And I absolutely love talking with you. Maybe in the future, I would like to have you in another podcast again because there's so many things I still want to talk about. I have a list. So, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for watching this. If you have enjoyed, do subscribe to Rebecca's channel. Everything will be in the description of this video. Go access her links and comment anything. If you want to comment and like this video, subscribe to the channel. And you have an awesome day ahead and see you guys soon. Bye bye.